This is Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary. On January 25, 2022, Psaki was asked about Joe Biden's schedule for the day.
So the president has nothing on his schedule today aside from the PDB. Can you shed any light on how he's spending his day?
Well, let's see. This morning, I think he had some policy meetings, also a PDB meeting. He later this afternoon, I think, is doing some remarks review. There are some days that we spend some time doing internal meetings and discussions with policy experts, with policy leaders, and that's what's happening today.
Now, Psaki was asked about this because Biden's team has consistently made sure that Joe Biden is in front of a camera and a teleprompter nearly every day, Monday through Friday. It's almost as if his staff is trying to prove that he's still alive or something. But thanks to that precedent, when he doesn't have a scheduled event, it seems odd, which is why Linda Feldman from the Christian Science Monitor asked about it. Anyway, Jen Psaki continued by stating that Joe Biden is really busy.
He would say he doesn't have nearly enough time of free time on his schedule because it is packed no matter whether people see him or not.
And yet, less than an hour and a half later, Joe Biden abruptly left the White House in a 19-vehicle motorcade filled with nearly 100 Secret Service agents and Capitol Police officers. Was he going to meet with the congressional leaders on Capitol Hill to discuss Build Back Better? Or the Joint Chiefs of Staff regarding the situation in Ukraine? I mean, whatever the reason, it must have been super important, right? Oh wait, he was just out getting ice cream.
He would say he doesn't have nearly enough time of free time on his schedule because it is packed no matter whether people see him or not.
And on this very important excursion, he also visited a local retail shop. And for some reason, his handlers let the press file into the store and ask him questions about Russia.
And I've spoken with every one of our NATO allies in person, virtually.
Yep, nothing screams presidential more than a 79-year-old man shopping in a retail store answering questions about foreign policy, all the while holding a coffee mug with a creepy drawing of his vice president. And that mug is from The Found, a company based out of Chicago. However, the actual mug is, wait for it, manufactured in China. I know you're shocked. And this is the best part. Biden actually gave the mug to Kamala. I'm sure she's thrilled. So to recap, Joe Biden took a 19-vehicle motorcade from the White House so that he could buy an ice cream cone and some cheap crap made in China, which I'm sure is not only fiscally responsible, but also good for the environment. Now, Joe Biden is so busy that he took time to fly to Pittsburgh to talk about his infrastructure law, to try and convince the American public that his administration is actually accomplishing things. But just hours before he was scheduled to speak, by sheer coincidence, the Fern Hollow Bridge near Frick Park in Pittsburgh collapsed. And while 10 people were injured, thankfully, no one was killed.
Let me just talk a little bit about what we all just saw, many of us saw this morning. A bridge more than 50 years old, I think it was 150 years, it says 50 years old, but I thought it was older.
So Biden is reading a speech from a teleprompter, a speech which Biden obviously didn't write. And the text read, "A bridge more than 50 years old collapsed right here in Pittsburgh." And for some reason, Biden questioned it.
I think it was 150 years, it says 50 years old, but I thought it was older.
However, that bridge was built in 1970, so no, not even close to 150 years old. But why does he think that? My best guess is that someone told him that rescue crews rappelled 150 feet down a ravine to help the victims, and he got confused. But God bless Joe Biden for thinking he's smarter than a teleprompter. Anyway, the bridge collapse gave Joe Biden a sort of I told you so moment, and then he could claim that he was right all along about America's crumbling roads and bridges.
But across the country, there are 45,000 bridges in poor condition. It's just simply unacceptable.
However, according to CBS 2 News in Pittsburgh, in 2017, inspectors recommended that the Fern Hollow Bridge be overhauled because of general structure deterioration and inadequate strength, and recommended a restoration project, estimated at $1.5 million. That project was never funded. And in hindsight, it would have been cheaper to fix the bridge, but instead, Pittsburgh is likely going to have to pay out millions of dollars in settlements to the victims of the collapse. Womp womp.
That's why your governor and your members of Congress, your mayor, have been saying for years, we have to do something about this.
So for clarity, the governor, Pittsburgh's 2 U.S. congressmen, and the mayor, who was previously a member of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, let a bridge collapse under their watch. And instead of Joe Biden scolding them for putting people in danger, he's like, see? They've been talking about needing to fix the bridges for years. Now earlier, while touring the site of the collapse, Biden made a dubious claim.
But I didn't realize there are literally more bridges in Pittsburgh than any other city in the world. And we're gonna fix them all.
No, we're not. The $1.2 trillion infrastructure law only earmarked $40 billion in funding for bridges, total.
Here in Pennsylvania, that means at least $1.6 billion for bridges alone. $327 million in 2022 alone just to repair bridges.
But according to the American Road and Transportation Builders Association, of the more than 23,000 bridges in Pennsylvania, nearly 3,200 were classified as structurally deficient. In total, 12,112 bridges needed repair at an estimated cost of $18.5 billion.
There are another 3,300 bridges here in Pennsylvania, some of which are just as old and just as decrepit condition.
Don't say it, Andrew. Don't say it. Don't say it.
And I've been to Pittsburgh a lot, but all these years I never knew Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania had more bridges than any other city in the world. Yo!
And that's not true. While Pittsburgh does have a lot of bridges, 446 to be exact, it's not the most in the world. That would be Hamburg, Germany, which has nearly 2,500 bridges. And as far as the city with the most bridges in the United States, New York City has 797 bridges. And that's only counting the ones that fall under the jurisdiction of federal, state, and local government agencies.
There are literally more bridges in Pittsburgh than any other city in the world.
Anyway, during his speech, Biden tried to promote his Build Back Better plan, which includes a provision that would cap the price of insulin at $35.
How many of you know anybody who has type 1 diabetes? They need insulin. You know how much it costs to make that insulin? Less than $10.
This is an oversimplification. Insulin is not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing, because there are many different types of insulin. And modern insulins that provide better blood sugar control than traditional insulins are more difficult to produce and therefore cost more to make.
You know how much it costs on average nationwide for a monthly supply of insulin, which you needed every single month? $656, as high as $1,000.
Honestly, I don't know where he's getting that number. But again, it depends on the type of insulin you're choosing to purchase. But also, a big factor is whether you have insurance or not.
Imagine being the parent, making the minimum wage or twice the minimum wage.
Pretty big difference between making the minimum wage and making twice the minimum wage, but whatever, Joe.
Having a child with type 1 diabetes, knowing that if you can't and have no insurance, knowing if you cannot get that money for the insulin, the child may die.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Please tell me why this parent making 31 grand a year or 62 grand, I don't know, doesn't have insurance when Obamacare exists. And I can guarantee you that regardless of your health insurance plan, you're not paying $1,000 a month on insulin for your child. That's a situation that does not exist. Biden is talking about this like it's some kind of national epidemic or something. But let's stop for a second and look at some stats. According to a report by the CDC, there were only 210,000 children and adolescents younger than the age of 20 that had diagnosed diabetes. This includes 187,000 with type 1 diabetes. And according to the US Census Bureau, 5.6% of children under the age of 19 were without health insurance for the entire calendar year of 2020. And that's a pretty small percentage. So with that said, Joe, approximately how many parents couldn't afford insulin for their children? Thousands? Hundreds? Dozens? Give a number. And for the record, I'm not saying that some parents don't have issues paying for insulin or other prescription drugs for that matter. So don't put words into my mouth. But what I am saying is that Biden is speaking hypothetically without backing it up with any data. And when I say speaking, I actually mean randomly yelling.
In addition to your child, it strips you of your dignity, damn it. Can you imagine looking at your child and you know what they need and not be able to do it? It's outrageous. And we have an answer.
So to summarize, Grandpa is yelling about a parent without insurance having to deal with the high price of insulin and claims that his Build Back Better plan is the answer to that parent's problems.
We have an answer.
No, you don't. The provision in the Build Back Better plan would only put a copay cap on Medicare and private insurance, which means that the price cap would not apply to someone without insurance. Anyway, I would like to point out that Joe Biden is more angry and more upset about a hypothetical situation about children and insulin than he is about an actual real-life situation involving state and local government mismanagement that contributed to a bridge collapsing just hours prior.
It's outrageous.
I know, right? Anyway, thanks for watching. Be sure that you're still subscribed to the channel. And as always, I hope to see you next time. If there is next time.